In 11 AD, under Emperor Trajan, Rome sits at its absolute apex. It's a period of immense wealth and stability, known as the Pax Romana. The city has a population of over 1 million people, and it leads the world in architecture, medicine, and engineering. This map illustrates a geographical scale that is almost difficult to comprehend. The empire covers 2 million square miles. It stretches all the way from Britannia in the west, across the Mediterranean, to Syria in the east, holding millions of subjects under a single administration. The physical symbol of this dominance is the Colosseum. It is an arena where the empire demonstrates its control over the natural world by importing thousands of wild beasts, and its control over human populations by showcasing conquered peoples in combat. From the outside, the empire appears entirely invincible. Yet the massive scale that makes Rome so formidable is hiding a fatal flaw in how the state operates. Rome's economy is entirely dependent on continuous military conquest. Taking new territories provides an essential, constant influx of plundered gold and captured enslaved people. This forced labor builds the roads, runs the farms, and maintains the vast infrastructure of the state. This flowchart maps the engine of Roman growth. But watch what happens when the legions hit their geographical limits. Once expansion halts, the continuous supply of new wealth and free labor suddenly dries up. Without new conquests, Rome now has thousands of miles of permanent borders to defend against neighboring tribes. Paying the massive legions required to hold these lines drains a treasury that is no longer being replenished by foreign loot. The very mechanism that built Rome's power, its relentless territorial expansion, ensures its starvation. The state has grown too large to sustain itself without new conquests, locking the economy into a state of permanent decline. As the borders freeze, the political core rot. The Roman Senate, once a powerful governing body of elites, loses its influence to a succession of emperors who treat the state treasury as a personal slush fund, prioritizing extravagance over administration. Leadership degrades rapidly. Emperor Commodus decides to fight as a gladiator in the Colosseum, alienating the ruling class. Following his assassination, political order fractures completely, leading to the Year of the Four Emperors, where rival generals march their armies on Rome to seize the throne. The situation reaches its nadir with the Praetorian Guard, the elite soldiers assigned to protect the emperor. Realizing they control the physical security of the palace, they assassinate the sitting ruler and literally auction off the imperial throne to the highest bidder in the streets. The blatant commodification of the throne shatters any remaining public trust. When imperial power goes to whichever general can bribe the military the most, the political stability required to govern 2 million square miles evaporates. This instability plunges Rome into the crisis of the 3rd century. For 50 years, the empire is torn apart by constant civil war. Localized famines break out as supply lines collapse and rival factions destroy farmland. To pay off the legions, emperors mint coins from cheap base metals, coating them in a thin layer of silver. Merchants realize they're practically worthless, causing prices to skyrocket. Right in the middle of this economic spiral, the plague of Cyprian strikes. Millions die, creating massive labor shortages that cripple agriculture and tax collection. The political fallout is brutal. Over the course of 5 decades, more than 24 men claim the title of emperor. Almost all of them are assassinated by their own troops after ruling for only a few months or years. Rome is trapped in a doom loop. Hyperinflation ruins the economy. The plague hollows out the workforce, and the military chaos prevents any coordinated response to fix either problem. In a desperate attempt to regain control, Emperor Diocletian realizes the state is simply too large for one person to govern. He implements a radical administrative measure, splitting the Roman Empire into distinct halves. This map illustrates a system called the Tetrarchy. The empire is divided down the middle into western and eastern halves. These regions are then subdivided into 4 separate zones, each ruled by an emperor or a junior co-emperor. Several decades later, Emperor Constantine makes an even more drastic move. He abandons the city of Rome entirely and establishes a brand new capital for the eastern half of the empire. Constantinople, situated on the wealthy trade routes of the Bosphorus. While splitting the administration looks good on paper, it destroys the Latin-speaking West. The Greek-speaking Eastern Empire possesses the bulk of the wealth and heavily fortified borders. They begin hoarding their resources, leaving the West broke and vulnerable. These administrative maneuvers do not fix the underlying rot. They essentially amputate the original Roman heartland, leaving the Western Empire to slowly decay without the funds needed to defend itself. Unable to recruit and pay its own citizens, the financially starved Western Empire turns to a dangerous alternative. They begin hiring the very Germanic tribes they once fought, employing groups like the Goths as mercenaries to guard the borders. When tens of thousands of Visigoths cross the Danube seeking asylum from the invading Huns, the Romans see an opportunity for exploitation. Corrupt officials refuse to provide the refugees with adequate food, eventually forcing starving Visigoths to trade their own children into slavery just to get portions of dog meat. This abuse pushes the Visigoths past their breaking point. The mercenaries revolt against their employers. Led by King Alaric, they march south into Italy, breach the gates, and storm the city of Rome in 410 AD. The cultural decay mirrors the physical destruction. A Christian monk named Telemachus steps into the Colosseum and protests the violent gladiatorial games. Though he is stoned to death by the angry crowd, the emperor uses the incident to ban the combats forever, leaving the great arena abandoned. The Western Empire limps along for a few more decades, entirely dependent on foreign warlords. In 476 AD, a Germanic general quietly deposes a teenager named Romulus Augustus, the last Western Roman emperor. Rome does not fall to a sudden, overwhelming outside force. It collapses from within. By sacrificing its infrastructure, debasing its currency, and exploiting its own defenses to feed an unsustainable appetite for expansion, the empire guarantees its own destruction.